This ain't just a channel, this is BBTV.
Welcome to What the Fork Wednesday, the stories that make you stop, blink twice, and ask yourself how this is real life. Logic has left the building. Let's begin.
Boss be rising, BBTV's igniting, turn the volume up, yeah, the whole world's invited. From the gravel road to the neon dream, she built an empire out of broken wings. Boss be rising, sky ain't even the ceiling when she hits go live, everybody feels it.
Hi there, how you doing? Welcome back. It's Ask a Bee. Welcome to the show, y'all. And buckle up because today we are not easing into anything gently. We are diving straight into messy and layered human drama that somehow manages to be equal parts ridiculous and painfully real. This is one of those episodes where you start reading a story and think, okay, this is mildly awkward. And then 5 sentences later, you're staring at the screen like, oh, we're doing this today. We've got Uber confrontations that turned into courtroom energy over 3 harmless words. We've got divorce dynamics that somehow involve drafting friends like fantasy football picks. And we've got a social group imploding under the weight of secrets, addiction, betrayal, and the audacity of people thinking they can assign other human beings like property. So, if you're here for calm and peaceful vibes, today may not be your day. But if you're here for sharp takes, boundary energy, pardon me, and calling out nonsense when we see it, you are exactly where you need to be. Because here's the thing. AITA, which stands for Am I the A-hole? Stories are rarely about the surface question. They're about power. They're about projection. They're about ego, loyalty, autonomy, and the weird ways people justify behavior that doesn't sit right. And what we do here is not just scream a-hole or not the a-hole. We use stinger and honey, of course, and then, move on. We unpack why. We look at the emotional charge. We look at the context. We look at the part nobody wants to admit out loud, and sometimes that means we defend somebody who overreacted but had a point underneath. Sometimes it means we lovingly tell someone that they brought a flamethrower to a candlelit situation. Okay? Either way, we're going to keep it honest. We're going to keep it sharp, and we're going to keep it real. So grab your coffee, your tea, your Dr. Pepper, emotional support, snack, whatever you need, because today's stories are not light, but they are juicy. And by the end of this episode, you're going to have opinions. We all do. Let's get into it. Let me load up this first segment because let me tell you, this one's a fun one. This one is a fun one. All righty. Here we go. Let me get myself set up right. You know I do that around here, right? And look, I even know how to move myself over. Isn't that so cool? Yeah. All right, here we go. Am I the a-hole for asking what the fork did you just say to my Uber pool driver after he said the female passenger who just got off was nice? Okay, so I think I'm the a-hole here, but I need confirmation. Was talking with a girl. She was in the back seat with me in the front. The conversation somehow came to men mistreating women and the patriarchy. So we had a discussion. Then she gets to her stop and then she gets out. And my Uber driver says in a polite tone, she was nice. Okay. I immediately misconstrued it as some kind of objectification. Oh, Lord, here we go. Not that I wanted to hear him make any comments about the woman anyway. Then I was like, wait, what the fork did you just say? Obviously, he didn't mean it that way, but I didn't want to hear his opinion on the woman. She's just a normal person. Let her be and allow her to exist as a person free of judgment. Her value and worth as a person is not at all based on others' thoughts or beliefs of her, especially mine or his. Okay. I've never had an Uber driver speak of other riders in any manner either, which is why it was so jarring. But obviously, it was mainly jarring because it came after such a discussion. I apologized, but the rest of the trip was quite awkward. Yes, my reaction was harsh, but really, I shouldn't have had such a sharp negative reaction. That's why I think I'm the a-hole here. But in my sentiment, correct, or is my sentiment correct or fitting at least? There's a lot to unpack here, isn't there? Listen, you did not get in that Uber as the supreme defender of womankind. But by the time that woman stepped out of the back seat, you were emotionally geared up like you were about to, I don't know, argue a case before the high court of patriarchy. And when the driver said she was nice, I mean, your brain did not process it as a neutral human statement. It processed it as a coded male evaluation. And that's because you had just spent the entire ride talking about men mistreating women. Okay? Power structures, systemic nonsense, and your nervous system was lit up, scanning language for subtext like you were analyzing a manifesto. So when he said the most beige, bland, socially harmless phrase in existence, you reacted to the context in your head, not the context that was actually came out of his mouth. She was nice. And in everyday driver language usually means she wasn't rude. Okay? Correct me if I'm wrong. She didn't slam the door. She didn't argue about the route. She didn't tank his rating. That's it. He didn't rate her body. He didn't compare her to other women. He didn't assign her value based on agreeableness. He didn't say she passed some invisible test. You filled in the blanks because you were already in debate mode. Come on. And here's the thing. Your underlying sentiment, that woman shouldn't exist under constant evaluation, is valid in theory, but you misapplied it to a situation that didn't actually contain evaluation. You escalated to, what the fork did you just say? Over what was likely just awkward silence filler. Yikes, buddy. So that reaction wasn't about defending her autonomy. It was about you being primed and ready to find offense in a neutral comment, which, because the topic of the ride had you charged. You even admit he didn't mean it that way. That right there is your answer, okay? When you know someone didn't intend harm and the words themselves weren't harmful, but you still explode, that's projection meeting adrenaline. Okay, so yes, your reaction was harsh. Yes, it was disproportionate. Okay. No, you're not crazy for being sensitive to context, but you did swing at a pitch that wasn't coming for you. And the awkward ride afterward wasn't patriarchy collapsing. It was a confused Uber driver wondering how she was nice turned into a courtroom drama at 35 miles an hour. Now, don't worry. My opinion's not the only one I have. I did grab some comments. We're going to get those up here too, of course. So, we shall do comment number 1. You're the a-hole. Obviously, he didn't mean it that way, but I didn't want to hear his opinion on the woman. Yeah, let her be and allow her to exist as a person free of judgment. Yeah, I picked those up too. How about you let him be free of your judgment of him? Amen. And not that I wanted to hear him make any comments about the woman anyway. Yeah, that one kind of irked me a little bit too. You admit he didn't mean it the way he spoke, but you persisted in judging him anyway. I like this comment. It is you that took the situation, bringing your prejudices. You need to just chill. Okay, first of all, this commenter came in hot with the Uno reverse card, and honestly, I respect it because they basically said, ma'am, you cannot give a whole speech about women existing free of judgment while simultaneously judging a man for breathing in the wrong tone. You said, let her exist free of judgment. But then the second he made a neutral comment, you slammed down a moral gavel. Like you were presiding over people versus Prius driver, right? That part, that stings. Okay. And they're right about this. You literally admitted he didn't mean it that way. That's the smoking gun here. If you know there was no ill intent and you chose escalation, that's not activism, that's projection with the side of adrenaline here. Now, I do love the chill out delivery because anytime that someone tells a woman to chill, I get hives. But underneath the tone, the substance is clear. You can't preach non judgment while actively assigning motives to someone who didn't express them. You filled in blanks that weren't there. That doesn't make you evil, it makes you emotionally primed. But yes, in this instance, you judged him harder than he judged anybody. And that irony, that's the whole point of this comment. Okay. Got another comment here. Alrighty, righty. Let's see here. You are the a-hole. What? It's a very common thing to say to oneself when meeting a person they enjoyed. I say that to companions when we go out to eat. I think I read that wrong. Sorry. And our waiter or waitress is exceedingly friendly. He was just talking to himself. I get you were primed due to TOT. I have no idea. To the subject of conversation. I don't know why that's messed up. So jumping to conclusions made sense, but goodness, you really jumped at him for what was an innocuous remark. I get what you wanted to do, but this was an extreme overreaction. Amen. You wouldn't react like this if someone just complimented a stranger. No, he was just remarking to himself that he enjoyed her company or that he believed she was a nice person. He didn't force anything on her. Obviously, he didn't mean it that way, but I didn't want to hear his opinion on the woman. You're the a-hole. You didn't even let him clarify. You assumed the worst of this man for no reason other than he said something that didn't even matter. Okay, buckle up because this commenter did not come to play. They came with the calm voice of reason and a wooden spoon to smack you upside the head with perspective, right? And honestly, they're not wrong. She was nice. Is something people say about waiters, cashiers, co-workers, literally anybody they had a pleasant interaction with. It is social static. It's human filler. It's not a manifesto. Okay, this is a commenter is basically saying, ma'am, he wasn't issuing a verdict on her womanhood. He was narrating his own experience. There's a difference between objectifying someone and privately noting you had a pleasant exchange. He didn't lean out the window and shout it at her. He didn't demand she earn approval or anything, okay? He muttered a neutral observation after someone exited his vehicle. That's not control, that's commentary. And the real dagger here is this. You didn't let him clarify. You didn't pause. You didn't say, what do you mean by that? You went straight to assuming the worst possible interpretation and then reacted to that assumption like it was fact. Really? That's where it tips from passionate to disproportionate. And the commenter's last point is spicy but fair. If a woman had said she seemed nice, would you have gone full siren mode? Probably not. Which means the trigger wasn't the phrase, it was the speaker. And that right there, that's the uncomfortable part, don't you think? I do believe. All right, we ain't done though. I just have to load it all up again. Pardon me. All right. Next panel. Okie dokie. She was nice is not the kind of phrase people usually find offensive. Everything else you said was ridiculous because your reaction was so bizarrely over the top. The driver is also just a normal person. FFS4, no clue. The biggest problem in the world is people judging others as nice. Now, let me just add some random words that sound good, but I don't understand. Patriarchy leads to right-wing talking points, which leads to patriarchy. Okay, so there's a few here. Sorry. The conversation somehow came to men mistreating women and the patriarchy. So we had a discussion somehow, just came up out of nowhere. Right? Okay. Yes, that was 3 different ones. Pardon me. But anyway, you get the point. All right. These 3 came in as a group chat and they said, we're done being polite. So let's unpack it with the same sass, but keep it grounded. Comment 3 is basically saying you built a philosophical skyscraper on top of 3 harmless words. And in the process, forgot that the driver is also, as they so eloquently put it, just a normal person, which stings because it's true. You were defending one human's right to exist without judgment while momentarily forgetting the other human in the car also gets that courtesy. Comment 4 is, pure sarcasm, chaos, basically mocking the idea that she was nice. Could possibly be some gateway to systemic oppression, maybe? I don't know. And while the delivery is messy, the point underneath is this: not every neutral phrase is a breadcrumb trail to patriarchy, right? Sometimes language is just language. And then comment 5 with the little laughing emoji energy is calling out the somehow the conversation came to patriarchy line, like, ma'am, somehow. We all know that didn't just float in from the clouds. That topic probably had momentum, and that momentum carried into your reaction. Okay, taken together, these comments are saying you escalated a normal human moment into a symbolic battle that didn't actually exist. Are they a little snarky? Absolutely. But their through line is clear, okay? The reaction was bigger than the stimulus. And when that happens, the issue usually isn't the words. It's the emotional charge you brought into the room. Okay? All right, one more here. You're the a-hole times 100. Your sentiment is not correct or fitting, and man, the post was exhausting to read. I have to agree with that one, but it's good, right? People say others are nice. It's the most harmless and inoffensive statement. You yourself said. He said it in a polite tone. You recognized politeness, but lashed out at him anyway. You were ridiculous. I mean, kind of have to agree on that one. Wu-Tang crew. Yep, you know what? I like Wu-Tang. Alrighty, so I guess this one did not come to counsel you gently. Okay, this one came in with a folding chair and said, you are the a-hole times 100. And honestly, the exhaustion comment is telling, because that's what happens when somebody takes a tiny spark and turns it into a 5-alarm fire. True. The commenter is basically saying you acknowledged the tone was polite. You acknowledged he didn't mean harm, and you still chose to react. Like he'd deliver a manifesto. And that disconnect is what makes the whole thing feel dramatic instead of principled. Nice is about as harmless an adjective as it gets. It's beige, it's oatmeal, it's the default setting. And when you recognize the politeness and still lash out, it makes it look less like you were defending a value and more like you were venting energy that was already built up from the conversation before. That's the part that reads ridiculous to them. Not because caring about women's autonomy is ridiculous, but because the scale of your response didn't match the scale of the moment. You can't acknowledge harmless intent and then react as if there was malicious impact. That's the tension they're calling out. And yeah, when the reader feels tired just reading it, it's usually a sign the reaction outweighed the trigger. Yeah, sorry to say, but it's so true. You know it is. Seriously. Listen, y'all, I'm going to take my break just a tad bit early today, but hey, you'll love it. It's my song. Be right back.
She came from the quiet storms, built a fire from the ground, turned a whisper to a warning. Now her voice shakes the town. Every setback was a lesson, every doubt became a key, unlocking something bigger. That's the rise of Boss B. When the lights go low, her vision hits high. She built a whole damn network off a promise and a try. Every sunrise, every moment, she's stacking legacy. This ain't just a channel, this is BBTV. Boss B rising, BBTV's igniting. Turn the volume up, yeah, the whole world's invited. From the gravel road to the neon dream, she built an empire out of broken wings. Boss B rising, sky ain't even the ceiling. When she hits go live, everybody feels it. She's the queen of the comeback, the storm in the stream, crafting stories out of heartbeats, making visions out of dreams. Got thunder in the hustle, got a voice that cuts clean. Every mic she touches turns the power unseen. So let further spin the numbers, let the views rise slow or fast. Boss B doesn't measure wins by echoes of the past. This moment is a pivot, this season's history. Bow down to the founder of the BBTV dynasty. Boss B rising, BBTV's igniting. Turn the volume up, yeah, the whole world's invited. From the gravel roads to the neon dream, she built an empire out of broken wings. Boss B rising, sky ain't even the ceiling. When she hits go live, everybody feels it. She's got fire in the head, it's got truth in the frame, got a heart that won't retire and a gift you can't name. Every loop, every letter, every dream she sets free, it's a love note to the world sign. Boss B. And the world keeps watching as the numbers climb, but she's counting all the moments, not the dollar signs. From the late night grind to the daylight scene, she's building something bigger than the algorithm's dream. Boss B rising, BBTV shining, her story's rewriting, a legacy in real time. Boss B rising, BBTV's igniting. Turn the volume up, yeah, the whole world's invited. From the gravel roads to the neon dream, she built an empire out of broken wings. Boss B rising, sky ain't even the ceiling. When she hits go live, everybody feels it. should take her place. This is BBTV. This is her grace.
All right, welcome back. It's us again, and we are about to start a whole new story. All right. Am I the a-hole because I won't let friends decide who gets me in their divorce? I, female, had a very good friend, male, John, in high school. He started dating Jane. Yes, I've changed the names. All the same age. In college, I met and married my husband. We all went to the same college and all got along famously. It was really the most ideal thing ever. One night, now 15 years into our friendship, and 11 years into my marriage, I hear the phone and my husband is basically flying out the door in the dead of the night. I said, "What the fork is going on?" He says he can't tell me. He's super uncomfortable with this. I see his phone says John. He apologized profusely, says he doesn't know what to do. He can only say he promised not to say and left. I sat up waiting for hours, wondering what the fork was happened. My mind was spinning. Long story short, Jane was cheating on John, doing drugs, and had a hysterectomy behind his back. Oh, this is definitely what the fork Wednesday. John left her and gathered the guys to tell them. I hear a dynamic hitting. Okay. So, husband came home and was surprised I was still there. Apparently, Jane was going to meet with me and the girls, but took drugs and passed out. Messing up the plan to tell everyone equally, I confronted John, saying I was friends with him before Jane, before anyone in the group. Not only that he got my husband to lie to me, unacceptable, he said they agreed Jane could have me in the divorce, so she didn't know what else to do, or he didn't know what else to do. She doesn't have much family and now fewer to no friends. John knows I've lost family members to drug addiction and the lies and hurt that came out of that. Jane has been using drugs, cheating, and hiding it for like 10 years. She admitted to this. Oh, what the fork. John desperately wanted a big family. That's gone. They both knew this is not something I would forgive. Even if I did, it's my choice who I decide to have or not have as friends. I'm not property to split. Amen. So, this one's a little longer, sorry. I let it go because I knew John was devastated. They had been TTC. I don't know what that means. And the whole time it was a lie. My husband and I had a talk. I don't approve, but he thought I'd be getting my own call, that I'd be confused and worried for minutes, not hours. Moving forward, John says I need to be there for Jane. He invites my husband out, but not me. We're also devastated that our whole social group is imploding. My husband went to a few outings to be supportive and to give John time. It's been 6 months and still no invites for me. John has said he has nothing against me in this. Jane came clean and no one in my group is suspected of covering for her, etc. She simply asked for me, and it's the least he could do. The group is divided. Some say I should be there for Jane. I've known her most of my life, and they say she shouldn't start from scratch without any friends after a divorce, rehab, etc. On the secret hysterectomy alone, I just can't respect her anymore. I don't want her as a friend, but I'm the only one she's asked for. Okay, that's kind of tough. Yeah, okay. Wow, that's a lot. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to load up again here. Hmm. Okay. So, uh, wow, let's get something a little straight right now first. You are not a casserole at a church potluck to be assigned to whichever table looks emotionally hungrier after a divorce. No, that's not what this is. You are a grown ass woman with autonomy, a husband, a spine, and a brain. The fact that this man who you were friends with before anybody else thought it was acceptable to let his ex-wife have you like you're part of marital assets is absolutely wild to me. That is not how friendships work, okay? That is custody court language. That is who gets the dog language, and you are not the dog. Now let's unpack the layers of mess we're here because there are several. First of all, your husband flying out the door in the middle of the night under a vow of secrecy. I would have been sitting upright in bed too. Like, what in the Dateline special is happening right now? You were left spinning for hours because the guys decided to orchestrate some secret reveal plan? Like they're running a group chat CIA operation? That alone is ridiculous. Wow. Hi, Big Tug sub to me. How are ya? Good to see you. Thanks for being here. Sorry, all I can see is at Big Tug sub to me, but whatever your name is, I'm happy for you to be here. Okay, so then to find out the secrecy was about protecting a coordinated social rollout, no, ma'am. That is not emergency level confidentiality. That is drama management. Okay. Now, here's the real issue John saying Jane could have you, the audacity, okay, the entitlement, the assumption that your loyalty is transferable property. That's the part that sticks with me. Because even if Jane is alone, even if she's spiraling, even if she asked for you specifically, that is still your choice. You're not morally obligated to absorb someone else's 10-year deception just because they picked you like last minute emotional life raft. And let's talk about that deception. 10 years of cheating, drug use, a secret hysterectomy while actively trying to conceive with a man who desperately wanted children. That's not a whoops, I messed up situation, okay? That's a sustained pattern of lying. You have personal trauma tied to addiction and betrayal. You're not required to override your boundaries to make other people feel less uncomfortable about the fallout. Now, the social group imploding. That's the natural consequence of long term deception, unfortunately. Not your fault, not your burden to fix. The fact that John is inviting your husband but not you for 6 months while claiming he was has nothing against you is well, it's also passive aggressive nonsense. You cannot both say I have nothing against you and socially sideline someone because they won't accept being assigned in the divorce draft. No. The friends saying she shouldn't have to start from scratch. Starting from scratch is often what happens when someone burns down the house themselves. Sorry, not sorry. Divorce plus rehab plus accountability means rebuilding, even from the ground up. That's hard. It's lonely. That is not automatically solved by handing her the one friend she requested, like she filled out a preference card. You are not wrong for saying no. You're not wrong for feeling disrespected, and you're definitely absolutely correct that friendship is a choice, not a custody arrangement. The only thing I'd say gently is this: your anger towards John might be more about the secrecy and the social sidelining than Jane herself. Because the deeper wound here is betrayal of trust in your marriage and your long term friendship. But no, you are not the a hole for refusing to be assigned like furniture in someone else's divorce. Boundaries are not cruelty, they're clarity. Amen. All right, so there were some comments for this one, of course, and I'm not going to be lied about these. There's a couple of shorter ones. One's got a response from the original poster, and that's this one here. All righty, so first comment: anyone causing division between me and my spouse would be getting cut off. I do not care what their personal problem is. Do not bring that drama to my home and relationship. I would be cutting John and Jane off if they think this is an acceptable way to treat a person, let alone two people who are married couple, period. And the original poster's response: that's my husband's point of view too. I encouraged him to hang tight with John and see if he changed his mind when the initial shock of it wore off. Obviously, it's been 6 months and the holidays are coming. John keeps asking him what I'm getting Jane for Christmas. Forking nothing, that's what. Okay. The commenter is basically saying absolutely not. If someone is creating division between me and my spouse, they're out, period. And honestly, that's a very strong marriage first stance, and probably the same I'd take. Because once a third party starts orchestrating secrecy, loyalty test, or social maneuvering, that affects your home. That's when people get protective. The fact that your husband had to leave in the middle of the night under a vow of silence already but put strain in your house. And that alone makes this bigger than just who gets who in the divorce. But here's the nuance. Your husband's perspective makes sense because he sees the wedge forming and wants no part of it. Yet you chose to give John grace in the immediate aftermath because you knew he was devastated and not thinking clearly. That actually shows restraint on your part. You know, you didn't go scorched earth. You told your husband to hang tight and see if John recalibrated once the shock settled. The problem is, 6 months later, we're not in shock anymore. We're in pattern territory, and asking your husband what you're getting Jane for Christmas, or I'm sorry, asking your husband what you're getting Jane for Christmas, like you're already agreed to this custody transfer is wild. That's not healing. That's entitlement. Forking nothing isn't petty, okay? It's boundary energy, no matter how you put it. You cannot socially sideline someone for half a year and then expect them to show up with a bow on top like everything's fine. If they wanted unity, they shouldn't have started with division. It's true. Here's another comment. I think it's time that you and your husband stand as a united front. I don't know any husband and wife who would allow this to go on this long. I kind of agree. I can understand supporting your friend, but not at the expense of your own relationship. Amen. People need to understand you're a package deal and can't pick and choose which one of you get. My husband told me to add he would be questioning John why he would think your husband would want you to or be okay with you hanging out with someone like Jane as well. And make sure he knows if the shoe is on the other foot, he would no longer be friends with your husband, period. Man to man, he said. LOL. All right. So this commenter is basically saying enough is enough, right? And I agree. You and your husband need to stop playing polite and start playing unified, because 6 months of this weird social custody arrangement is not shock anymore. It's precedent. And once something becomes precedent, it becomes expectation, right? They're right about one thing, though, one key thing. Married couples are a package deal. You do not get to draft one spouse and bench the other like this is a fantasy football league. Supporting a devastated friend is one thing, but doing it in a way that quietly sidelines your partner is a complete other. And the man to man angle is actually interesting, because from that perspective, why would John assume your husband would be fine with you being reassigned socially to someone whose behavior you fundamentally don't respect? That's not awkward. That's disrespectful to the marriage dynamic. That the point here isn't about punishing John, it's about clarity. If the shoe were on the other foot and your husband was the one being excluded while you were invited out, would John accept that? Probably not. So this commenter is saying, draw the line clearly and together, because if you don't define the boundaries, someone else will keep redefining it for you. And we can't have that, right? That's crazy. All right, we do have one last comment on this one. It's a little bit longer, so bear with me. But here we go. Now, alrighty. This, how did any woman with seemingly no prior medical history just up and get a forking hysterectomy? I hope I got that one out of there. I don't know if I did. I did not. Forgive me. It's supposed to say forking. My bad. We're adults here, right? Over the last 30 years online, I have read not dozens, but hundreds of accounts from women, probably just on this site, not to mention all the other sites that I have been on during my online, and from the USA, from the UK, from Europe, from every single continent except Antarctica. All of them with serious medical conditions, such as severe endometriosis or ovarian or uterine cancer that they had suffered with for years. And they'd either waited over 5 to 10 years for hysterectomy or just been one denied outright for just a mere tubal ligation. It's very similar, almost impossible to get, with the reasons cited often being the same as for hysterectomies. You're too young. You might want children later for women under 35. And this is true. When they say that, they never want children, but you might change your mind later on. You're too old now. For women over 35, got told this one myself in my early 40s. We need your husband's authorization. If she's single, what if you get married later and your husband wants children? True. This is true. Even what if something happens to your existing children and you want another baby unspoken to replace them? Systemic medical misogyny and racism, of course. I don't know about that part, but it's ever faithful companion that means that the US's already dreadful maternal mortality rates are worse for BIPOC by, I don't know what that means, is known, proven, and studied phenomenon. It's been the subject of peer-reviewed research papers, newspaper articles, books, and excellent John Oliver segment. Every single time, no matter the subreddit, a woman mentions having problems getting a doctor to listen to her and take her seriously, the thread becomes a mega thread full of other women and other AFAB peoples. Similar stories, and this is repeated all over social media, on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, in the comments for that John Oliver video. I've seen it on revelry. I've seen it in the comments for many different articles on the Guardian's website, on forums for board games or books or anywhere people are. Okay, I think basically what we're trying to zero in on something that actually deserves attention here, okay? And I agree to this. And that's why I brought it up here. They're basically saying, hold up, the medical piece of this story doesn't add up in a vacuum. And they're not wrong. That hysterectomies are notoriously difficult for many women to obtain without severe medical justification, especially in systems where doctors routinely dismiss pain, delay treatment, or require spousal input for reproductive decisions. Listen, when I had my tubes tied, okay, it was after my third child. I thought about it after my second one. My doctor didn't want me to do that. They tell you, some states won't allow you to have a hysterectomy unless it's medically necessary. And even when before my hysterectomy, for a full year before that, I was in pain and they wouldn't diagnose me that way. I lived in Texas. And it took them a year before they decided there was anything really wrong. I went to Louisiana in the middle of this, and the doctor says, oh, you have to have a hysterectomy. It was funny how it happened, too, because I went in and had laparoscopic surgery. That's where they go in through your belly button, right? And he goes in, and he comes back out, and he says, listen, we've done this surgery, and let me tell you it this way. Your uterus, when you press on it, is supposed to be like a grapefruit. It's supposed to bounce back. So I sat there for a few minutes trying to understand what he was trying to tell me. And the only thing that I could come up with, and it was true, okay, was, are you trying to tell me that I'm overripe? Yes, that's what I asked the doctor. Yes, I did. I asked him that. And after we both stopped laughing for about 20 minutes, yes, that was the whole thing. And I had to have a hysterectomy. This was after my third child. I'd already had my tubes tied. It was a couple of years after. Okay? Listen, medically, I had to have that done. It wasn't a choice. I had my tubes tied already. That's reversible. Hysterectomies are not. And it has to be a medical decision. And if she did, did she go over the border? What's the deal here? How did this happen? The examples, okay? Being told you're too young, too old, you might change your mind. What if future husband wants kids? That's documented. That's studied. That's real. And systemic medical misogyny absolutely exists. But here's where we have to separate two lanes. The reality of institutional barriers and the reality of this specific marriage. Just because many women struggle for years to get reproductive care does not automatically mean Jane's situation was impossible or fabricated. Access varies by doctor, region, financial means, private versus public, and whether she framed the procedure as medically necessary or elective. It is entirely possible she found a provider willing to do it, especially if she had underlying issues. She disclosed privately. The real betrayal in this story isn't whether the hysterectomy was medically hard to obtain, though, okay? It's that she concealed it while actively participating with a partner, okay, who desperately wanted children. That's the moral fracture here. Whether the system is biased or inconsistent does not excuse the deception, and the broader conversation about reproductive autonomy cuts both ways. If women deserve full control over their bodies without spousal permission, which they do, that autonomy also includes the responsibility to be honest with the partner when shared life plans are involved. You cannot fight for bodily autonomy and then weaponize secrecy inside of a marriage built on a mutual goal of children. So while the commenter is absolutely right that the medical system often fails women and that misogyny in healthcare is well documented, that systemic reality does not erase the personal accountability piece here. The outrage over the access is valid in general. It just doesn't absolve 10 years of lying in this specific relationship. And I think that's probably all I'm going to say about that, because I'm a little upset about that one right now. I mean, can you imagine being lied to? And I believe TTC is they were going through some fertility. Okay. That right there is why boundaries will always make some people uncomfortable. Because the second you stop being assignable, usable, or emotionally convenient, somebody is going to call you selfish. But here's what we learned today. Context matters, reaction scale matters, and autonomy matters. Whether it's snapping at an Uber driver because you were emotionally primed, or refusing to be drafted like property in someone else's divorce. The real theme underneath all of this is ownership. Ownership of your reactions. And what do I say? Don't react. Ownership of your friendships. Ownership of your marriage, and definitely ownership of your boundaries. You can care deeply about women's autonomy and still admit when you're overreacting. You can support a devastated friend and still refuse to be socially reassigned. Like part of the furniture, okay? We're not doing that. And you can absolutely say no without explaining yourself in exhaustion. If something feels off, you get to pause. If someone disrespects your marriage dynamic, you get to correct it. If your reaction was bigger than the moment, you get to own that too. Growth is not about being perfect. It's about being honest. So if today's stories hit you somewhere personal, sit with that. If they made you laugh, good. I'm hoping that's what happened. If they made you uncomfortable, even better. That's where clarity lives. Thank you for being here. Thank you for thinking through the mess with me. And I will see you next time, tomorrow, in fact, except don't forget, there's going to be lots of chaos. It's Thankful Thursday. But don't forget also tonight, we have Grow and Glow Academy again. Yes, we do. And I have made a special little video that I'm going to show you how to edit in YouTube. Okay? Y'all get over there tonight, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern time on the Iron Sharpening Iron universe or on BBTV. You can watch it from either place. I encourage you to go see both. Okay? Both channels, we are rocking it, and we have a lot of good stuff to share with you. So, next time, I shall see you soon. Don't forget, I got a little bit of promo going for you here, so don't take off on me. Y'all go watch this. Y'all go see Tuber Chat, because that's my buds over there. Word up. Tuber Chat. See you guys later. I'll buzz you later.
I want to take a minute to shout out Tuber Chat. If you're a creator who's tired of surface level advice, says, and actually wants to understand how YouTube works, that's the space. It's real conversations with real creators who are in the trenches, building channels, testing ideas. No posturing, no gatekeeping, no fake guru energy, just people sharing what's working, what isn't, and why.
If you're serious about growing, learning, and not doing this alone, check out Tuber Chat. The link is in the description. If you're enjoying this show, subscribing is the easiest way to support what's being built here on BBTV. You'll see the join button right next to subscribe. No pressure, no expectations, just an option for people who want to support the channel in a real way.
We're live every day at 3 p.m. Central now.
And don't worry, we didn't change the heat, just the clock. And if you've got a story you want to share, send it in. Anonymous is always fine.
Boss be right.